Namaste. My name's Stacy McCarthy. I'm a professor of yoga studies in San Diego, California. And today I'd like to talk about Ashtanga 8-limbed path. The 8-limbed path is called Ashtanga, and you can find greater detail about the 8-limbed path in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in the second pada or sadhana. But today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the 8-limbed path. Sometimes you may see the Ashtanga 8-limbed path personified as a tree with 8 limbs coming from it. So the very first limb is something called the Yamas, and these are really outside principles that we conduct our lives by. The very first Yama, there's 5 of them, is called Ahimsa, or the science of kindness. It's compassion for all living things. The second Yama is called Satya, or truthfulness in our word, thoughts, and deeds. The third Yama is called Ostia, or non-stealing, not taking things that don't belong to you, whether it's material goods, whether it's an idea, or anything that's not yours as an act of stealing in Ostia. The fourth Yama is called aparigraha, or non-hoarding. Aparigraha conquers greed, so it's about not acquiring things that you don't really need. The fifth Yama is called brahmacharya, and brahmacharya can mean moderation. It can mean sexual and physical restraint. In simpler terms, maybe it's not sowing your seed where you don't really need it, or giving your energy through drama or where it's not really needed, but learning to use your energy wisely. So that's the first limb of the 8-limb path. The second limb is called the Niyamas, and the Niyamas are really the yogi's code of ethics. These are more internal principles, and there's also 5 of those. The very first Niyama is called Satya, or purity or cleanliness of the body and the mind. So taking care of the body as our temple, and also having pure thoughts and clean thoughts. The second Niyama is called Santosha, or contentment, and Santosha is really an essential element of yoga. It's learning to appreciate all that we have. It's about finding the perfection in wherever we're at along our spiritual journey. The third Niyama is called Tapaz, and Tapaz is our spiritual fire, our spiritual energy. It's the disciplined use of our energy towards our spiritual path. So this is really the sacred fire that through our practice it can start to turn lead into gold, and finding our path along the way. The fourth Niyama is called Svadhyaya, and Svadhyaya is our self-study. It's the observation of the self. And we can find deeper understanding of ourselves through things like chanting, reading spiritual text, contemplation, journaling. These are all forms of self-examination. The fifth Niyama is called Ishvara Pranayama, and this is really the celebration of the spiritual. It's surrendering yourself to something bigger than yourself. The third limb of yoga is asana, and that's what most people, especially in the West, come first for. And asana is yoga poses. So many people think when you hear yoga, it's about touching your toes or who's more flexible, especially in today's picture world. We see a lot of fancy poses, but yoga is really about touching your soul. It's a spiritual practice. And the asana practice that we do is designed to detoxify and heal the body, to bring us back into balance. It is not about who's the most flexible or who can look the prettiest in their poses. It is really about balancing out our body completely so that we can pursue the spiritual path. The next limb of yoga is the fourth limb of yoga, and this is Pranayama. And Pranayama is the energy inside the breath. So the word prana means life force, and yama means to extend the breath. So through different breathing practices, we learn to bring clarity and vitality to the mind. The fifth limb of yoga is called Pratyahara, and this is withdrawing the senses. It's moving further away from the external and deeper into the internal. So you can think about a turtle that starts to move deeper into its shell when it needs to create more energy within itself. It starts to withdraw. And so certain yoga poses help us withdraw within. More contemplative practices start to draw us deeper away from the external and into the internal. The next limb of yoga is called Dharana. And Dharana is disciplining the mind. It's the focus and concentration. And the asana practice has some beautiful, beautiful techniques to help focus and concentrate the mind. Through the drishtis, through a specific gaze. Every yoga pose has a specific gaze to train our mind and our eyes from looking around and comparing and judging and competing. Traditionally, yoga is not done in front of mirrors, although that's become quite popular. You don't need to see yourself, you need to feel from within and capture the energy, keeping the eyes in one spot and not at a mirror. You can also do this through bandhas, or internal locks within the body, is another way that we can help focus our energy within and start to control the mind. So the asana practice itself is a great vehicle to help train, especially people who have a little bit of that monkey mind where the thoughts are going all over the place, to discipline the mind a little bit greater. On an average day, we have about 60,000 thoughts and about 430 emotions, the latest research has shown. So we're all over the place. So techniques that we can do to start to discipline the mind is Dharana. When the focus and concentration becomes unbroken, it folds into the seventh limb, which is called Dhyana, which is meditation. And this is truly where the real inner journey begins, where we come into a more meditative state, where the thoughts aren't all over the place. They may be initially, but eventually through practice, through disciplined effort, we start to see that the thoughts become unbroken. And finally, that merges in to the eighth limb of yoga, which is called Samadhi, when the meditation merges into the being known as Samadhi, where there is no longer a disconnect any longer, that there is a oneness with all things everywhere as they are, where there's truth, consciousness, and bliss, where this is called Satchitananda, and where there's an undercurrent of love that unifies all things. The word yoga means unity or union. And so this is really an endless love that unifies all things, and there's no longer a disconnect. So that's the 8 limbs of yoga in a very brief overview. To learn more, again, you can visit Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, especially the second pada, the sadhana, to go into greater detail. Thanks for hanging in here this long with me. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Namaste.